Welcome to this pre-recorded video that summarizes the Government of British Columbia's proposed changes to the provincial drought level scale. My name is George Roman. I'm the manager of the River Forecast Center and Flood Safety sections at the BC Ministry of Forest, Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development. And we have collaborated on this initiative with the BC Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. So just some background context, BC is prone to periods of drought and water scarcity, typically due to prolonged lack of rain and snow across regions. These events pose risks of impacts on social, economic, and ecosystem values, affecting water users and aquatic ecosystems. Significant droughts in recent memory that affected large parts of the province include the summer of 2009 and the summer of 2015. The BC Drought Response Plan describes the province's role in monitoring, coordinating, and communicating on drought and water scarcity conditions. This is done at regional scales using a system of 4 drought levels, and the results are posted on the internet at the BC Drought portal during spring, summer, and early fall. The province is currently proposing to update our existing 4 levels of drought to a more detailed 6-level system. Prior to implementing any proposed changes, we are seeking feedback and input. The proposed updates to the drought levels are aimed at achieving several strategic purposes. Firstly, we hope to improve clarity and focus for monitoring and communicating drought and water scarcity, including the variability of conditions over time and across different regions. If successful, the new system will improve both advanced warning of drought as it unfolds, as well as management responses. Second, we aim to bring the province into better alignment with federal and international drought assessment frameworks. These use a more detailed 6-level scale, including more information on how drought conditions unfold over time. Better alignment between BC, the federal government, and neighboring jurisdictions should help reduce some confusion that exists among the public and water users. Third, the new drought levels aim to more accurately depict drought severity and better represent drought conditions. This is becoming increasingly important as the risk of both short and long-term drought and water scarcity events is expected to continue to increase in the 21st century due to climate change. These strategic purposes or objectives all form part of our commitment to continuous improvement in provincial drought programs. The current BC drought levels, which have been in place for a number of years, range from 1 through 4. 1 represents normal conditions, where sufficient water is available to meet human and ecosystem needs. 2 represents dry conditions. Level 3, or very dry, represents potentially serious ecosystem or socioeconomic impacts. And 4, or extremely dry, generally indicates water supply is insufficient to meet socioeconomic and ecosystem needs. One of the issues that has frequently come up in drought discussions is that drought level 1 is possibly misleading, as it applies under conditions that can be even wetter than usual or even flooding in some cases. The North American Drought Monitor was developed over a number of years with international collaboration and was part of our jurisdictional scan on some alternatives to mapping and monitoring drought in BC. The map shown here represents conditions across Western North America as of January 31st of this year. Any locations with average or wetter than average conditions are not mapped by the colors and just appear as the white background. This tends to draw the viewer's eye to areas actually experiencing dry conditions or drought. The first labeled category in this system is called abnormally dry, shown in yellow, followed by moderate drought, severe drought in orange, extreme drought in red, and finally exceptional drought in the dark brownish burgundy shade. The proposed new drought levels for BC mirror the North American Drought Monitor, ranging from 0 at the lowest end of the scale up to 5 at the upper end for a total of 6 categories and similar corresponding terminology. By rebranding the lowest level of the scale to 0, we hope to better communicate and represent when conditions are average or wetter than average. Core indicators based on precipitation and stream flow used to inform drought levels and move between levels will also be adjusted and evaluated over time. Secondary supplemental indicators will also be adjusted and strengthened in ways that best reflect drought conditions and enable regional and local input. This slide illustrates how current drought levels on the top correspond with the proposed new drought levels on the bottom of the slide. As mentioned earlier, level 1 would become level 0. Dry conditions would change from level 2 to level 1. Very dry conditions or existing level 3 would be split into level 2, very dry, and level 3, severely dry. And the existing level 4 would also be split into an extremely dry category and an additional exceptionally dry level, which will better show when conditions reach near or beyond record lows. The new system also aims to clarify typical management responses at each drought level to inform interpretations and decisions at multiple levels of governance, provincial, local, and First Nations. One key change is removing emphasis on the word voluntary to describe water conservation. Voluntary conservation continues to be very important. However, it is recognized that local governments commonly achieve conservation by creating and enforcing bylaws that restrict water uses, especially outdoor water use. The province also has the ability to take regulatory action to protect the environment or downstream water users, using tools such as temporary protection orders under the Water Sustainability Act to respond to low flow conditions. The province also continues to work with First Nations governments in many regions who have an interest in water governance issues and drought. Taking these issues into consideration, the new wording for drought level 2 indicates local water restrictions where appropriate, whereas level 3 states local water restrictions likely. At levels 4 and 5, local water restrictions would be expected under most conditions, and provincial regulatory action is either possible at level 4 or likely once we reach level 5. At drought level 5, emergency responses could also be triggered where appropriate. These changes aim to achieve a better balance between certainty and flexibility on what management responses to expect at each level in the scale. If drought levels do not currently inform your decisions, these changes will have a negligible impact on you. The changes are intended for use in government decision-making, whether by provincial, Indigenous, regional, or local governments. Some governments and organizations who do refer to the provincial drought levels in their decision-making may need to update their drought strategies and operations to align with the new drought levels as they are implemented. We'd like to hear from all interested parties through engagement to see what they think about these proposed changes. Our target is to start to implement the new levels over summer of 2021 on a trial basis. If the changes are judged to be beneficial, changes would be fully adopted and implemented following that. The BC Drought Response Plan and other provincial guidance would also be updated accordingly. Thank you for your time to listen to this presentation. To ask questions or provide feedback, please leave a comment on the Water Sustainability Act engagement blog site between now and March 31st at engage.gov.bc.ca/Water Sustainability Act. You can also email us prior to March 31st at livingwatersmart@gov.bc.ca. Thank you again for your interest in drought management in BC.